morning, good morning, good morning. Good to see you. My sister's here already in the chat. Thank you for sharing me out. Appreciate it. Thank you, sis. She puts ones in the comments so that way I know I'm seen and heard. Appreciate you. So we are in a different book today. Um, Probably after this time of reading the steps and traditions, I'll probably start reading from the magazine. Um, I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, but there is a magazine that goes through AA and it's of other AA members from different places sharing their stories in there. Some of them are really touching. One of them is my sponsors. Um, so yeah, pretty cool. Hi, Tony. I see you over there on Facebook. I'm not going to be able to see your comments probably. So, anyways, it's AA Day. So, let's go ahead and get into. I see your comments. Hey, that's cool. Finally, it's working. Anyways, so let's go ahead and say the Serenity Prayer and get the meeting started. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And every time I say it, I want to say, keep coming back. It works if you work it. That's only for at the end of the meeting. Anyway, I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic. Prayers for Jen. I'm saying prayers for that person. I see you over there, Pat. Anyways, um, so let's go ahead and get into reading the. Um, I'm also on YouTube. If you have YouTube, you can watch over there, or you can watch here. It doesn't matter. I go live on Facebook and YouTube for my AA meetings, so that way I can reach more people. And some of my friends don't have YouTube, so I'm trying to make it for all of my friends in the community of AA be welcome. So, anyways, I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic. Keep judgment out of the AA meeting. Don't go to each other harassing each other because they might not be the alcoholic. They may just be here to support my channel, or a friend or a family member learn how to help their friend or family member. So that's how AA works. And it's spread wide so that way we can reach more people that need help getting sober and staying sober. So, one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Three, made a searching and fearless moral inventory. Wrong one. I skipped one. Sorry. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understood Him. Number four, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Tongue-tied today. Five, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Six, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. Seven, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, I'm tongue-tied today. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And the 12 traditions, because it's that book. And I don't know all of these by heart yet, so our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on AA unity. 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4. Each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5. Each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to alcoholics who still suffer. 6. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprises, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7. Every AA group ought to be self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. AA such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Try to say it backwards. I don't know why I'm backwards today. Understand. It's a backwards day. So we are reading the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book again. If you have one, you can follow along. If not, it's okay. I'm going to read it anyways. I didn't put a page number on it because I always read the introduction and foreword before I start the book. I see you over on the other side, Tony. Sun tea without the sun, because I have a Kool-Aid picture that sits in the house in the window. And yeah, anyway. Alcoholics Anonymous first published 12 Steps and 12 Traditions in 1953. Bill W. was along with Dr. Bob S., founded Alcoholics Anonymous in 1935, wrote the book to share 18 years of collective experience within the fellowship on how AA members recover and how our sobriety functions. In recent years, some members and friends of AA have asked if it would be wise to update the language, idioms, idioms, however you say that word, and historical references in the book to present a more contemporary image for the fellowship. However, because the book has helped so many alcoholics find recovery, there exists strong sentiment within the fellowship against any changes to it. In fact, in 2002 General Service Conference discussed these issues, and it was unanimously recommended that the text in the book 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, written by Bill W., remain as is, recognizing the fellowship's feeling that Bob's writing be retained as originally published. We hope that the collective spiritual experience of the AA pioneers captured in these pages continues to help alcoholics and friends of AA understand the principles of the program. This is a foreword. Alcoholics Anonymous is a worldwide fellowship, and more than 100,000 alcoholic men and women who are branded together to solve their common problems and to help fellow sufferers in recovery from that age-old baffling malady, alcoholism. This book deals with the 12 steps and 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. It presents an explicit view of the principles by which AA members recover and by which their society functions. AA's 12 steps are a group of principles spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. AA 12 traditions apply to the life of the fellowship itself. They outline the means of which AA maintains its unity and relates itself to the world about it, the way it lives and grows. Though the essays which follow were written mainly for members, it is thought by many of AA friends that these pieces might arouse interest and find application outside AA itself. Many people, non-alcoholic, report that as a result of the practice of AA 12 steps, they have been able to meet other difficulties of life. They think that the 12 steps can mean more than sobriety for problem drinkers. They see in them a way to happy and effective living for many alcoholics or not. There is, too, a rising interest in the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. Students of human relations are beginning to wonder how and why AA functions as a society. Why is it, they ask, that in AA no member can be set in professional or personal authority over another? That nothing like a central government can anywhere be seen? How can a set of traditional principles have no legal force at all hold the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous in unity of effectiveness? The second section of this volume, though designed for AA membership, will give us inquiries an inside view of AA never before possible. Alcoholics Anonymous began in 1935 at Akron, Ohio, as the outcome of a meeting between a well-known surgeon and a New York broker. Both were severe cases of alcoholism and were destined to become co-founders of the AA Fellowship. The basic principles of AA, as they are known today, were borrowed mainly from the fields of religion and medicine, though some ideas upon which success finally depended were the result of noting the behavior and needs of the fellowship itself. After 3 years of trial and error in select the most workable tenets upon which society could be based, and after a large amount of failure for getting alcoholics to recover, 3 successful groups emerged. The first at Akron, the second at New York, and the third at Cleveland. Even then, it was hard to find two score of sure recoveries in all 3 groups. Nevertheless, the Infant Society determined to set down its experience in a book which finally reached the public in April 1935. 1939, not 5. At this time, the recoveries numbered about 100. The book was called Alcoholics Anonymous, and from it, the fellowship took its name. In it, alcoholism was described from the alcoholic point of view. The spiritual ideas of the society were codified for the first time in the 12 steps, and the application of these steps to the alcoholic's dilemma was made clear. The remainder of the book was devoted to 30 stories or case histories in which the alcoholics described their drinking experience and recoveries. This established identification with alcoholic readers and proved to them that the virtually impossible had now become possible. The book Alcoholics Anonymous became the basic text of the fellowship, and it still is. This present volume purpose to broaden and deepen the understanding of the 12 steps as first written in the earlier work. With the publication of the book Alcoholics Anonymous in 1939, the pioneer period ended and a pronounced prodigious chain reaction set in as the recovered alcoholics carried their message to still others. In the next year, alcoholics flocked to AA by tens of thousands, largely as the result of excellent and continuous publicity freely given by magazines and newspapers throughout the world. Clergymen and doctors alike rallied to the new movement, giving men and doctors alike, sorry, I read that part already, giving it unstinted support and endorsement. This starting expansion brought with it very severe growing pains. Proof that alcoholics could recover had been made. but it was by no means sure that such great numbers of yet erratic people could live and work together with harmony and good effect. Everywhere there arose threatening questions of membership, money, personal relation, public relation, management of groups, clubs, and scores of other perplexities. It was out of this vast welter of explosive experience that AA's 12 Traditions book formed and were first established in 1946 and later confirmed at AA's first international convention held at Cleveland in 1950. The tradition section of this volume portrayed in some detail the experience which finally produced the 12 traditions and so gave AA its present form, substance, and unity. As AAs now enter maturity, it has begun to reach into 40 foreign lands. In the view of its friends, this is but the beginning of its unique and valuable service. It is hoped that this volume will afford all who read it a close-up view of the principles and forces which have made Alcoholics Anonymous what it is. And this is 12 steps, and it starts at step 1. Okay, here we go. Step 1. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one, of course. Every natural instinct cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness. It is truly awful to admit that glass in hand, we have wrapped our minds into such an obsession for destructive drinking that only an act of providence can remove it from us. No other kind of bankruptcy is like this one. Alcohol now become the rapacious creator bleeds us of all self-sufficiency and all will to resist its demand. Once this stark fact is accepted, our bankruptcy as going human concern is complete. But upon entering AA, we soon take quite another view of this absolute humiliation. We perceive that only through utter defeat are we able to take our first step toward liberation and strength. Our admission of personal powerlessness finally turns out to be firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built. We know that little good can come to an alcoholic who joins AA unless he has first accepted his devastating weakness and all its consequences, until he so humbles himself his sobriety. If any will be precursors of real happiness. He will find none at all, provided or proved beyond doubt by an immense experience that is one of the facts of AA's life. The principle that we shall find no enduring strength upon until we first admit complete defeat in the main taproot from which our whole society has sprung and flowered. When first challenged to admit defeat, most of us revolt. We had approached AA expecting to be taught self-confidence. Then we had been told that so far as alcohol is concerned, self-confidence was no good, whatever. In fact, it was a total liberation. Our sponsors declared that we were the victims of a mental obsession so subtle, powerful, that no amount of human willpower could break it. There was, they said, no such thing as a personal conquest of the compulsion by the unaided will, relentlessly deepening our dilemma. Our sponsors point out our increasing sensitivity to alcohol, an allergy, they called it. The tyrant alcohol wielded a double-edged sword over us. First, we were smitten by an insane urge that condemned us to go on drinking, and then by an allergy of the body that ensured we would ultimately destroy ourselves in the process. Few indeed were those who, so assailed, had ever won through in single-handed combat. It was a statistical fact that alcoholics almost never recovered on their own resources. And this had been true, apparently, ever since man had first crushed grapes. In a pioneer's time, none but the most desperate cases could swallow and digest this unpalatable truth. Even these last gaspers often had difficulty in realizing how hopeless they actually were. But a few did. And when these laid sorry, but a few did, and when these laid hold of AA principle with all the fever with which the drowning sea's life preserves, they almost invariably got well. That is why the first edition of the book Alcoholics Anonymous, published when our membership was small, dealt with low bottom cases only. Many less desperate alcoholics tried AA, but did not succeed because they could not make the admission of hopelessness. It is a tremendous satisfaction to record that in the fellowship or following years, this changed alcoholics who still had their health, their families, their jobs, and even 2 cars in a garage, began to recognize their alcoholism. As this trend grew, they were joined by young people who were scarcely more than potential alcoholics. They were spared that last 10 or 15 years of literal hell the rest of us had gone through. Since step one requires an admission that our lives have become unmanageable, how could people such as these take this step? It was obviously necessary to raise the bottom the rest of us had to the point where it would hit them by going back in our own drinking histories. We could show that years before we realized it, we were out of control, that our drinking even then was no mere habit, that it was indeed the beginning of a fatal progression. To the doubters who could say, perhaps you're not an alcoholic after all. Why don't you try some more controlled drinking? Bearly in mind, meanwhile, what we have told you about alcoholism. This attitude brought immediate and practical results. It was then discovered that when one alcoholic had planted in the mind of another the true nature of his malady, that person could never be the same again. Following every spree, he would say to himself, maybe those AAs were right. After a few such experiences, often years before the onset of extreme difficulties, he would return to us, convinced he had hit bottom, as truly as any of us. John Barleycorn himself had become our best advocate. Why this insistence that every AA must hit bottom first? The answer is that few people will sincerely try to practice the AA program unless they hit bottom. For practicing AA's remaining 11 steps means the adoption of attitudes and action that almost no alcoholic who is still drinking can dream of taking, who wishes to be rigorously honest and tolerant, who wants to confess his faults to another and make restitution for harm done, who cares anything about a higher power, let alone meditation and prayer. AA's message to the next sufferer: no, the average alcoholic, self-centered in the extreme, doesn't care for this prospect unless he has to do these things in order to stay alive himself. Under the lash of alcoholism, we are driven to AA, and there we discover the fatal nature of our situation, convinced and as willing to listen as the dying can be. We stand ready to do anything which will lift the merciless obsession from AA. So I I tell you guys all the time that I did get sober before I found AA. Well, on my terms of found it. Um, so I grew up knowing about AA, but I didn't think about that my whole life because that was something my father needed. And the reason I thought that way was because when I was growing up, we went to an AA meeting with him. when we were on a visit. One of the visits that he actually showed up, I guess. I don't know. Um, no, he took us. I don't know if he picked us up from home or what, but we went to an AA meeting when we were little. But we didn't know really what it was. And then when I got to AA, I found out, hey, that was what we were at. But my father never got sober, as you guys know. Um, I wanted to never become that alcoholic because I knew he was. I grew up around the alcohol in my family home that he was not in. Um, but I didn't experiment with alcohol as a child. Um, my my parents would give me Jack Daniels on my gums when we were teething, and that was it. I don't know if that maybe had something to do with it or whatever, but that's just what they did back then. I'm a Gen X kid, so um, but so I quit drinking, or I have to say I admitted that I was an alcoholic. I think maybe a year, a year and a half at the longest before I hit my eye on whatever I hit it on, and ended up with 7 stitches in my eyeball continuously, continuous stitch because I was not having it. I was not happy being at that hospital. I didn't want to go there to begin with. My face was bleeding. I didn't care. I just wanted to drink. Dumb, right? But I had already admitted that I was powerless over alcohol and that I had depression and anxiety. And that's what I was trying to cover up for. And so I I decided after I did my eye that I would go sober. I did not want to drink anymore because that was enough for me. I hit that bottom right there. That was my first time hitting the bottom. And it was before AA. And this is why I say that AA works. Because I had already admitted before I found AA, thanks to a friend of mine, but I went back out a year after I quit drinking, and I was back out drinking for a couple years, maybe 4 years. I don't know exactly, but I went back out, and I got back to that point where I was taking money and going to the bar in the morning as soon as I found out that I lived right next to bars. And so I started drinking again. And I drank for quite a while. And then I decided to go into Southern Oregon area to get away from everybody because I thought that they were the problem. And no, it was actually I was a problem and my sister was a problem. And we were a problem to each other because we were each other's ego and, pusher. We pushed it on each other, and when we would get low, we would hide it. And that was dumb because we would get into fist fights about it. And we seriously were not nice to each other. Um, but so I went to the southern part of Oregon, and I was working out. I stopped eating the way I should have been eating, and I quit drinking. And let me tell you, those withdrawals are crazy. crazy, but so worth it. I had the shakes, I had the sweats, and I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I didn't tell anybody I was taking myself off the alcohol. Nobody asked me to do it. I just started doing it. I just didn't want to be that person anymore. I wanted to be who I'm supposed to be, and that's me right now. I could live a daily life of being sober. I was still not not happy with my life, and so um, I did get sober, and I was okay, and we decided to come back up this way where we're at now, and I reached out to a friend of mine that has been a friend of mine since I was 16. And of course, he was one of my adult friends. And no, I didn't drink with him as a teenager, but he was somebody I would talk to. And one of my friends that I didn't leave on a bad note. And so I started talking to that friend, and he says, why don't you meet me at an AA meeting? Because we're both alcoholics. And I had been telling him that I was having these issues of I'm sober, but I don't know what to do. And so he told me about AA, and so I went to AA. And so making that first step made it a little easier for me to go into that place with the I'm here, for a friend, not knowing that this was going to work for me, just meeting a friend. Then that friend of mine, I asked him, when's the next meeting? He didn't know. So I called some numbers on that list, and boy, am I glad I did, because I have one of the best sponsors that anybody could ask for. She got me started on my steps and rode my ass to get step 4 done because she knew I was struggling with that. And when it came to making amends, I'm still slowly making those. I have to be, it has to be on my time of doing that. Sometimes things are not okay to be changed. One of my amends that I thought I had to make wasn't my amend to make, and that was to my father. That's my birth father, by the way. And my sponsor had asked something about that. How do you make amends to somebody who is no longer here? And I don't know. It's just weird. I never figured out. When he passed away, I was confused. I didn't know if I should cry or if I should be pissed or be happy. It was all my emotions all at once, and that was because he never admitted to me what he did, and he never would admit to my sister what he did because we were both right there when he was doing that. And it's upsetting when somebody like that never gets sober, can never apologize, never make the amends. And to me, I make amends to myself because I'm so angry still that he never made those amends. And it shouldn't affect me that way, but it does. And it probably will for the rest of my life. But I just learned how to cope with not having that in the forefront of my mind all the time. Because I can go about my day and not think about it. And AA has taught me how to switch my mood uh, by going and doing the service work, or by reading my book, or by reaching out to my sponsor or to sponsees, because yes, I have those two. I don't talk to them very often, but I still call them my sponsees because I'm here anytime they need me. And they have my phone number. And I'm more than happy to be that for someone who needs it. And I know doing these meetings is not me going out and doing service work, but I do service work every day, even at work, because AA is on the top of my list to talk about. Always has been. Since I started AA, it is number one in my life. It has to be. Because if it's not, those thoughts are going to come back to me of going and having that drink. And that's not an option. Not in my mind. It's not something I'm going or willing to choose. So, doing my service work by sharing my alcoholism story with others helps me to stay sober and helps them to know that they can get that too. And never be afraid to say that you're a recovering alcoholic or coming into an AA room saying that you are an alcoholic and you need help, because that's what we do. That's what AA is about. And helping each other, uplift each other to stay sober and do all those things that we need to do in our daily life sober. Because it's not easy. It's still not easy for me 11 years later. I still have my struggles on those days of self pity and, bad thoughts. And I still have some of my anxieties. And I still, every now and then, start to go into a panic attack. And I just have to remind myself that it's happening for a reason. This is how things should be right at this moment. And I need to stop with the racing mind, because my mind does not stop. It's always going, always going. And I don't know why, but it does. And I even have these issues at work. Things will get me irritated at work, and I'm just like, why? Why are you getting so upset over this machine? I mean, really, what's it going to do? It's not going to make me any more happy. So just be fine with the way it is. But and sometimes I'm stubborn. I'll just stand there and I'll be like, whatever, I'm just going to stand here. Or I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to play my game. I'm going to call somebody. Hey, Kayani. But AA is one thing that works. And I wouldn't be saying that if it didn't work for me. I wouldn't be doing these meetings right now if it didn't work for me. It still works every day in my life that I'm sober and I know how to use my steps to get me through those situations. And even making amends these days, when I do something and I realize what I did, for the most part, I will make amends. But sometimes I just have to be like, that's not my issue, not my amends to make. But I'll pray for him. Definitely pray for him, you know. You're welcome, Tony. Definitely. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, Lily. And thank you, everybody on the Facebook side. I appreciate you guys being there for me and coming to a meeting. Um, I do these meetings every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. and I do them on Thursday evenings at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I'm on YouTube and Facebook, and just trying to get to let people know that they can achieve sobriety and that you are well worth it. And if you're struggling today, just know there's help everywhere. Reach out to someone. Even saying something about alcoholics, you never know that that person might know what you're talking about. I talk about mine everywhere, no matter who's there, who's talking to me, um, because sometimes it is a great time to just say, I'm a recovering alcoholic, because sometimes they are too. And it helps. Whether you know it or not, it helps. And if you need help, please reach out to an Alcoholics Anonymous resource place. Um, there's meetings everywhere. Google AA meetings, and it should tell you where there's a meeting. And thank you guys for being here and being part of AA and achieving sobriety. And I know you can do it if you do it for the right reasons. And the right reason is for yourself. I love you guys. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. Love you guys.